Today we're talking with Bri Alexandra. She's a hypnotherapist, Reiki master, and all-around energy healer. We get into how she balances corporate life with her passion for healing. And we really love conversations like this where people are working their 9-to-5s and they know that it's not really meant for them. So they're doing it for now and then really working towards what they feel like they were put on this earth to do. So it's exciting to hear the passion in her voice as she talks about her work, clients, and everything she's putting into this so she can get away from her corporate job at the bank. So you'll notice some background noise. I'm recording this outside a cafe in Galveston, Texas. I'm here for 2 months. We'll have to be sure to do an episode on Galveston. It has far exceeded my expectations. There's plenty to do. There's beach, sun, bars, and everything in between. So we will have a special episode on Galveston coming up very, very soon. But for today, we bring you Bri Alexandra.
We are back. Yeah, another episode. We're pumped to be here. Before we started recording, we're actually just talking about the struggles of growing long hair out. So for those of you who might see my thumbnail photo of me, I usually have either like a mohawk or shaved sides, but it's just kind of like this moppy, like no real style to it yet. But this has been 2.5-3 months of growth. So it's getting there. But I said the savior is.
I'm going on 3 years now. And I won't freak everybody out with this bullshit, but it takes a long fucking time. And when you're in the in between times, when it's not quite long enough that it stays in place, but it's still too long that it's annoying, that's the worst. And that's kind of where you're at right now. Let me adjust my camera here so I get my face.
It's the awkwardness too. So, but anyways, in about 15 minutes time or so, we'll be having another guest speaker on today's episode. We're going to be having Bri Alexandra coming on. So I actually met her when I was down in Playa del Carmen. We're working at the same co-working place called Bunker. And I noticed that I looked at her computer screen, because, me being nosy, and I saw that she had TD Bank everywhere. I'm like, you must be Canadian. And she's like, why do you say that? I was like, well, Toronto Dominion Bank.
Yeah.
And it's only in the northern states. She's like, no, I'm from New York. So we started chatting. And next thing you know, we started talking some more. And she actually wanted us to, after she found out what I did, what Corey did as well with the branding, she knows that she's got a big project for us coming up because she wants to really launch her business and create it growing. She wants social media and advertising and the whole shebang. And so I kind of asked what she was doing. She does, not just human design, but numerology, astrology, the list of all of her credentials. She's a certified clinical hypnotherapist as well. So she's very well diverse in it. So it's kind of cool how she's able to translate, being from business, computer, banking stuff to then also doing, the clinical hypnotherapist as well. So she'd be popping on in, like I said, 15 minutes or so. We'll be doing a little interview with her and kind of getting some inside scoops of, why she's in this business, what she loves, some stories from clients. And just, it's always been pretty cool. Especially for myself, the last year now that I've been with my partner, just under a year, she's very spiritual and big into the astrology and human design and numerology and stuff like that. And to me, I was like, it's just kind of hocus pocus stuff, right? This is bullshit. Because I always had, I'll do a little backstory here. I had one girlfriend, I'll leave names out, but she would always be triggering me just right now thinking about it. She'd be like, I don't fucking want to do anything. I'm like, why? She's like, I'm a Gemini. I'm like, your sign doesn't declare if you're a bitch or not. But you can use, so to me, I always had a sour taste because people used their astrology signs to dictate how they live their lives, as opposed to using it to see what your strengths and your weaknesses are. They say, I'm allowed to act like this because I'm this. And it's like, no, that's not really what it's designed for. It's designed to guide you, give you indications of what your strengths, your weaknesses, what you should and shouldn't do. And it was just always kind of funny. It's like, oh, I'm typical Aries. I'm like, it's not a thing.
It's a personal preference, right? So, I'm with you. I want to believe in all these things, and I do to an extent, more so than I did before. I want it all to be real. In some instances, not all, I need to see a little bit more evidence, just depending upon what we're talking about. And I know we've been all over the place, but if you can use it, it makes you feel better. My same view on religion. I'm an atheist, but I don't hate people who are religious. I'm like, hey, if it helps you, that's great. And look, I would love to die, and then, oh my God, there's a heaven. This is great. But that's the way I feel about most of these things. I'm like, I want these things to be true, and I want them to work, and that's why it's very interesting to me. And I've become very into these things over the last few years, and so far it's been a really, really good experience. Now, whether it's like there's some truth behind all of it, or there's truth behind a little bit of it, or it's a placebo effect, if it makes you feel better, it makes you feel better, and it makes your life better. It makes your life better. But before she jumps on, I don't know that I've heard the term human design. I mean, I can kind of figure it out what it is, but do you want to explain what like that
Yeah.
means to you? Yeah.
So she doesn't actually do any human design work. So human design, we won't really be touching much on it, but
Yeah, well,
human
that's why
design
I'm asking, because if she's not going to bring it up, I at least, yeah, so I figured you would know. So
yeah, so human design is basically you take the exact time of when you were born. So it depends, goes right down to the minute and the second, the hour you were born, of what day, and they are actually able to trace back where the sun was at that time, where the moon was, where Jupiter was. So like it all has to do with the solar system and where the planets are aligned of when you were born, so that it can dictate, if your and your moon was in this sector and the sun was here, it can kind of give you different weaknesses, different strengths of where your attributes are in your world. So what happens was, a good example of this is, so the human design chart shows a picture of the body, and there's all of your chakras. So your head, your throat, your body, and then there's another one there, and then right around your groin. I forget the name of the chakras exactly. But inside of those, there's all different numbers. And inside those numbers, there's pathways and lines that connect different parts of your body. So depending on when you were born, there's different sections that are lit up, meaning you have those strengths, and other parts that are blank. So it shows you usually use conscious and problem solving abilities. You're more up here. If you lead with your gut and your instincts, you're more down here. So there's a lot of cool things that I'll pull up a picture for it after. But yeah, it allows you to it's really actually pretty damn accurate about how you live your life. And what's really cool is, so when I got together with my girlfriend, we had a lady come over and do our human design readings and charts and stuff like that. And when she put my human design chart and then overlapped hers on top of mine, every part that she was missing, I filled in, and every part that I was missing, she filled in. So together we filled up the entire human aurora of what the ideal human should be. So we complement each other. So her weaknesses are my strengths, and my strengths are her weaknesses. It's really cool because we figured out we kind of knew this to begin with, but then actually seeing it just going off of when we were born and seeing it actually overlay on top of each other, that we actually are completing everything. It's really cool. It's really cool.
I didn't know any of this. Because I just assumed when I heard human design that it was, my imagination, whatever, but I didn't realize that there was that much of a process behind it. There's an actual thing, and people do this kind of thing. Did you feel that, obviously, some people get really good at doing the tarot card people and all that. They get really good at stuff like that. Did you feel, and I know you're you're always thinking, you're always watching people and you're skeptical. Mm-hmm. Did you feel when she came in and she did all that, did it feel accurate to you? It wasn't she was just throwing things out there and trying to convince you?
Yeah, well, it felt accurate to me in the sense because there's no manipulation that they can do with it. So with those tarot cards, it's a deck of cards that someone made, that a company printed off, that you just pull a card and oh, this is me today. To me, that seems a bit hokey pokey, because you just don't know where that's coming from. But with human design, and a lot of stuff that Brie's gonna be talking about is here as well, like the hypnotherapist and all of her astrology and stuff like that. It's been the same star alignment. It's been the same process for hundreds of years. So there's no changing, there's no manipulating it. It's, you punch in when you were born and that design comes up. So if I have someone who's born the exact same day, year, month, minute, second as me, theirs is going to come up to the exact same. So it's not based on the luck of the card you're pulling out and whether or not you get the lion or you get the zebra or whatever the card might say.
The manatee.
Actually, it's all based on actual physical numbers lining up and you punch that in, it shows you where all the star and the moons and all the planets were at that time. So it's really based on science. It's definitely a lot more science based, I'd find.
At least it all goes back to one source, meaning, like you said, there's no trickery there. It lines up where it lines up based on dates and everything else, and things that are solid in history that can't be really altered. So that's really interesting. I had no idea. Yeah,
and with the tarot cards or whatever, they say, well, you were just meant to pick that card. That card was calling you. I'm like, I don't know if I believe that. There's 52 cards in a deck. What happens if I would have picked one more or less? So to me, that seems like there's a lot more chance or luck or uncertainties. And I'm not saying that it doesn't work. I'm not saying that it's wrong or that it's hocus pocus. But to me, because there's so many unknown variables in there, like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm like, oh, this one, nah, it might be this one. It's like, well, that's your body telling you that you wanted that card. Like, or it's me just not knowing what the fuck I want.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
so it's hard to quantify. But with the stuff that Bree's going to be going over and with the human design, I found that, you know, there's no manipulation. There's no, you know, like, oh, you're born in March, so that means this. Like, it's all written down. Like, there's, you know, it's like ancient scrolls of what that day was and where the moon was and what that means when it is. So there's no, you're not like, you know, you're not people, because with a lot of the tarot cards, people take their own perception of what the card is, and they go, well, I think this means this. But with this stuff, it's like, this means this. This is the moon was here in this degree, this quadrant, this area, this sector.
Yeah.
It's
So in
really
other words, a person that has never done it before could pick it up and do it based on what's already been established. Like, there's no embellishing. You're not bringing your own spin on it. You're just kind of like, well, this is what's, you know, it's, I don't want to use the word practice, but it kind of is. It's like it's something where you're drawing on the group, the collective knowledge, and it's all uniform across.
Yeah.
It's not
like,
left out for like whoever wants to make shit up about whatever, you know?
Exactly. And like the girl that did ours, Cecilia, she's been doing it for, I think, 10, 12 years or something like that. So she obviously has like her own spin on it, in a sense where like she'll read what it says, but then she'll go on from there. So basically, like, it'll pull up what each quadrant means, what it is. So she'll read that off, but then she'll go into more detail and more elaboration on it. So she's not just like, oh, you got the seahorse. Well, the seahorse is good luck, and I believe it. This, like, no, she read off the facts and then went into her interpretation of it as well. So a little advice for people out there who are starting their own business. It is good. It is a good idea and a good investment to invest in quality equipment. But at the same time, don't wait to start something just because you're waiting for like the best tripod. Like, if you can only afford a flimsy one, or you can only get like an Acer computer or whatever it might be, you need to get a secondary webcam that hooks onto the screen because the webcam is sitting there. Do what you got to do to start, right? Don't wait for you to have all the gadgets. As you progress, you start making more money, you invest in the better gear. But I always did that too. Like, you know, I'd wait for the best thing to come out. I'm saving up. I'm like, oh man, I could have been like filming by now. I could have been building a website or something. But so I think, you know, it is a good idea to get good equipment, but don't let that hold you back from starting.
Yeah.
Really,
there will always be something better. When we were just doing this with computers, that's why I bought that microphone behind me, which I like, but it's like, you know, dude, I'm not going to pack that. That's why I have this little guy on here, but I could use my computer, you know, and you're right. Like, there's always something better, or we could edit these better, or we could have all kinds of crazy transitions and things. The thing is, it's like, you have to put your thing out there, and whether it's great or not, it still doesn't matter. If it's something you want to do, the longer you put it off, you're going to kick yourself, because the first few times you do something, it doesn't have to be content creation. It's probably going to suck, but you have to do it. Otherwise, you're not going to get better. So, but I do know the feeling though of like, oh, I need better lighting, or I need a better camera, or I need a better this or that. And it's tempting. It's also a way for us. It's a defense mechanism to procrastinate. Like, as soon as I get this, then I will do that. So, and I get it. I do it all the time. Like, as soon as I did it fucking today. I have a yoga mat. I lost the towel for the top of it. That's like an anti-slip towel, because when I get on those things, I slide off all the time. So I've been meaning to do yoga for the last, I don't know how many couple of months. Couldn't find my towel. I ordered one. It just showed up in the mail today. It's over there on Amazon. And I'm like, now I can do yoga tomorrow. I could have done it this entire time. It just would have been a little bit harder. But, you know, in my mind, I'm like, oh, I need this towel. I can't do yoga without this towel, you know? So it's human nature, man. But
I used to do it all the time with diets, with trying to quit smoking or drinking. Like, oh, I'm just going to wait to New Year's. I mean, it's already September. Might as well wait till December 31st.
Yeah. They go, well, that's St. Patrick's Day is in March. God damn it. You can't.
So, like, I mean, like, what I've really started incorporating in my life that's been really helpful is if I have an idea, if I want to do something, I do it right away. If I want to read a book, I don't be like, well, maybe I'll read it later. Like, no, if I have that feeling, I do it right away. Yeah. Because if I don't, I'll forget, I'll procrastinate. And, you know, if I say, oh, I'm going to start my diet tomorrow. Like, we're doing 75 hard right now for those who know what that is. It's tough. We made it to,
what is that?
75 hard? Oh, it sucks.
No.
It fucking sucks.
Sounds terrible.
So for 75 days straight, there's like a list of things you got to complete every day. So we got to do 2 45-minute workouts every day. One of them has to be outdoors. So it could be like a 45-minute walk or run or whatever you want to do. We have to drink a gallon of water every day, which is about 3.5 liters. We have to read 10 pages of a book. You have to follow one meal plan or one diet plan. So it doesn't have to be any. You can do whatever you want. You want to go vegetarian, go vegetarian. You want to go just any kind of meal plan. And you have to take progress photos every single day for 75 days.
Okay.
So we did 5 days straight. And then I think we both kind of got sick or were traveling. So we just kind of, we fell off. With traveling, it's hard to do sometimes. We kind of fell off. So then my girlfriend Josh is like, so when do you want to start the 75 hard again? And so I responded, I think it was like Saturday. I'm like, we could do Monday. She's like, well, how about tomorrow? I'm like, perfect, let's do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because if we would have, said, oh, well, we're traveling this week. We got this planned. Maybe, when we get to Mexico, we can start again. If we would have done that, we would never have picked it back up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So things like that, it's the best advice to do is do it right away.
And who chose Monday as an arbitrary day? That's the worst day to start anything. It's like Mondays are the because there's always some new business stuff going on. No matter what kind of job you do, Mondays are like the fucking worst. That's when the weekend. That's when all the idiots from the weekend who didn't check their stuff and follow up start crashing down with emergencies and everything else. But I know what you mean. Well, and another point about waiting to start something that you may want to do. So let's just use this as an example. Let's say we put it off, we're waiting for all this equipment, we order all this shit, we spent money on all these things, then we start doing this and we like, man, we hate this.
Remember that lady in Mexico who had all the equipment?
Yes. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. So that would be that's an exceptional example of recording studio, all the equipment, all the things that like very expensive stuff also that honestly the technology's already surpassed all that. You don't need that anymore. But yeah, you really, for anything, you really want to just try it. It's like maybe you like lifting weights, maybe you don't. Well, get a day pass. Don't commit to a year membership. I'm just using dumb examples now, but it's the same concept. You know, like don't commit to something because you may not like it. You may not want to do it. Then you're like, what do I do with all this shit? So, and people are very forgiving. So, for example, what we're doing now, obviously, we have to maintain a certain level of audio quality and everything else. So, hey. Welcome. It's very nice to meet you. I'm Lee. I know we haven't met before, so we appreciate you coming on. Where does this show find you?
Right now, because I met Sean and hanging out in Mexico for like 2 months. I am in Charlotte, North Carolina, but I'm from New York City originally.
Oh, so no kidding. Okay.
I move around too.
Awesome. No, same. Likewise. We all do the same thing. I've got a cousin in Charlotte. I lived in Wilmington for a while, and I was in the Marine Corps in Jacksonville a long time ago. So I'm familiar with the state. Yep. It's a really nice place down there. So Sean gave you a little bit of an intro before you hopped on. We were just talking about nonsense like we usually do, but if you don't mind, just do a little introduction, tell people who you are and what you do, and we'll take it from there.
Hi, I'm Bri Alexandra. I'm a certified clinical hypnotherapist. I'm a professional astrologer, numerologer, and also a psychic intuitive. So I utilize multiple, and a Reiki master as well. Forgot about that. I do a lot. I also moonlight as a corporate employee in corporate finance. So I do that as well. That's how I keep the ship floating. And I've been in clinical hypnotherapy part-time for the last 2 years. That's when I went back and got a certification in that, over 800 hours of studies. And astrology and numerology is just a passion I've had for the last 20 years. So that's who I am.
That's awesome. I like the way you put it, where you're moonlighting as a corporate employee, because most people flip-flop that mindset. They're like, they this is my day job and this is what I want to do. But I like the way you phrase that. It makes me feel better. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I like that. Yeah. So yeah, the clinical hypnotherapy is always very interesting to me, because a lot of people think of hypnotherapists as like, you're going to make me quack like a duck or whatever. I mean, it's for everything these days. I mean, for trauma, even things down like smoking cessation, like what types of things and what have you worked with in that field, and how does that all work?
So to satisfy my education, I started seeing pro bono clients, and I kept a few of them while I was traveling because I just really wasn't ready to go full time into the space. And then recently, I'll say over the last 2 to 3 months, I started seeing people more regularly. So I have people coming to me for weight loss, for stress management, which is hypnosis is the best for relaxation. It's the best 15-minute nap that you can get. It's almost like getting a full night's rest in that hypnotic state. And so I see clients for that. And I also see a lot of people who want to like reach their goals professionally, because I am in a corporate space. So corporate wellness employees who I bump into in my moonlight job, they've discovered my abilities and started to come to me. I've also seen people in the medical field. I happened to go to a gastroenterologist a few years ago, just for my own IBS symptoms. And the gastroenterologist, I put down that I was a hypnotherapist, and he was like, "I need you." I was like, "Me? You have like a doctorate. What do you need me for?" He was like, "Well, there's something called a gut therapist, and they take a lot of insurance, and it's a lot of complications to get a client to a gut therapist. So having a hypnotherapist on call when necessary is great to have, because I, take straight payment. And some people really can utilize me to overcome stress and some of those things that disturb the gut health." So I was like, okay. And I did do a lot of research on that, because that was one of the things that pulled me into hypnosis, knowing that it's an alternative treatment, holistic treatment for IBS. And then, of course, I'm a spiritual wellness facilitator. So I see people who want to do past life regressions, dig deeper into their spiritual journeys, and expand on that space as well. So see a little bit of everything.
That's really cool. And I mean, like, I'd say in the last couple of years, ever since I moved to Mexico and started traveling, like I've been getting a lot more into like the Chinese medicines and the natural path and the earth giving medicines and mushrooms and ayahuasca and stuff like that. So because before, I mean, growing in Canada, it's like, oh, you're sick, you're injured. Well, let's just treat the symptoms, not the cause and the root cause of it. And that's what I think you're doing, is you're diving more deeper into the root cause of what's causing these troubles, what's causing these problems. And a lot of illness and sicknesses are actually caused from anxiety, fear, depression, and you're able to actually help people either prevent. I don't want, again, obviously you can't say you cure diseases, but you could help prevent their bodies from becoming sick and becoming ill, or helping reduce the symptoms of sicknesses.
Right. So
really cool.
I consider myself to be avocational, right? So how we were trained is we are an added addition to your provider, right? So I don't replace a provider. I don't have the credentials to do that. And I also require people to come to me if they're seeing anybody that is a licensed psychologist or psychiatric evaluations that they're going through. And of course, if I'm being referred by like a medical professional like the gastroenterologist, to come to me with a certain waiver and a certain acknowledgement that they provide to their original provider who maybe referred them to me, or and even if they found me independently, I require you to sign off that there is awareness that you're working with me in more of a self-help type of way. So I definitely don't. I love Eastern holistic wellness. However, sometimes we need a little extra additional help. So East and West is best. That's how I see it.
These things are evolving over time, medical science and just humans in general. But it's nice to see the shift now where people are looking at it from a holistic approach, because before it was like something's wrong with your brain, something's wrong with your gut. And then, well, it's really your entire system's connected. And then, like you mentioned, with the stress and everything else, I mean, there are people that, and I'm sure you've even seen this. I have a friend in Florida who does similar work to what you do. And there are people that have come to him that have been almost blind, and it was a mental thing. He was able to do several sessions of hypnosis. And it's so strange, but it's good that this is like coming more into the mainstream now. And hopefully at some point insurance covers it and everything else. And I know it's, we've got to deal with the medical complex on that, but it is really nice to see that people are addressing the whole problem, the root causes, and we need to get there. We have a long ways to go, but that's awesome. And it's got to be a good feeling to kind of jump in and do what you do and let the doctors do their thing. And then you come in and take it from there. So let's say, what's like a treatment path? I know I'm going to butcher this, but let's say somebody comes in with like a gut issue or something like that. are you working with them simultaneously as they're being treated with medications or anything else like that, or is it something that picks up after the fact? Is this like long-term things? Have you been able to kind of help people in just a couple of sessions? What does the arch look like?
Okay, so as far as sessions go, I can never put a cap on how many sessions it takes to treat someone because everyone's different, right? Now, when I get referrals from a gastroenterologist, for example, or a medical professional, first of all, what I love is that medical professionals are acknowledging the fact that we have a place and it is necessary to look at other opportunities that could expand because, just sticking a pill in someone, not only does that become just like a whole cycle of more, but it also becomes very expensive, right? So bringing me in as a self-help, avocational support is wonderful because then it helps people start to dig into the psychological stuff and the psychosomatic symptoms that might be at play, right? So a path for someone would be, for example, if the doctor is referring to me, that means they acknowledge that some of this is stress caused, right? So my first session includes reducing stress. That's with every client, whether I'm seeing somebody for spiritual therapy, if I'm seeing someone for fear of getting on a plane, losing weight. My first session is always to condition you to the hypnotic state, explaining what it is, letting you understand that your mind is about 90% unconscious, right? That's that iceberg theory where the bottom of the iceberg, the shadow area, is your subconscious mind. And then there's 10% consciousness, right? That's understanding everything we're doing, how, you making a choice to put on a blue shirt today and get in your car and drive to work. Everything else you do on autopilot. So I break that down to a client and make them understand that, since we're working with only that 10%, there's a lot of changes that need to take place on that subconscious level. How do we do that? I come in to facilitate, not to, mind control you or to make you do anything like quack. That's cool too, but that's stage hypnosis. That's right. If you're going to quack, that's on you. But if you want me to make you quack, I can do that. But I think you want to do something more productive with your time, right? So just breaking down what hypnosis is, what you can expect. You're always awake. You're always aware. You're just in a deep state of relaxation. If you're sleeping, then I can't really make the changes necessary. Your mind is not able to take it in. I like to reference a TV running when you're sleeping, right? Your brain doesn't shut off when you sleep. It's like an infomercial. It's always taking the information in your environment. So I become the TV. And any suggestions you want me to make about your changes, I start to suggest that in hypnotic trance. And so we work together. You work on your 10%, which is just relaxing and letting go. And I work on the 90%, which is helping you to facilitate those changes on that deep subconscious level. So the first session is usually about an hour and a half, building rapport with you, explaining what you can expect, making you understand there's nothing being done to you without your free will. And, probably saying something crazy and silly because that's how I like to build rapport with people, show my personality.
You got to have the
right.
trust, right? I mean, trust is everything, I imagine. Because going into this, if they don't trust you, they're not going to get probably the state that you
That's
need.
building rapport. And you still need to see me in a state of authority because that's kind of how this works. But having that comfortability to understand that you letting go means that we get to change what it is that you want to see change. That's all the first session. And then from that point on, we start to build off that first session. So sometimes I might bring in journaling, therapeutic journaling, asking you to keep conscious of your dreams because a lot of the things that we release, just like when you release bodily fluids in the toilet, you release your blockages in your dream state. So I need you to, just allow those things to happen. Use that 10%, but also if you find that things are coming up within that state, because a lot of people who get hypnosis start to remember their dreams more. Even if you're not a dreamer, you start to kind of have more vivid dreams. So that might be a part of the therapy. And then also talk therapy, right? So not necessarily digging into like trauma, but allowing, someone to maybe go back and see where the root cause of what is causing that stress is coming up. If your job is, more demanding, you might start to feel that not only in your emotional state, but also in your physical state. Because a lot of times when someone has a lot of pressure on them from work, they start to feel it here, like in their shoulder area. So then you have like that tension within your shoulders. So if you're telling me, I'm coming to you because I'm feeling some physical pain within my shoulders, everything is just getting to me, my wife, my kids, the demand and stress of the job, being an entrepreneur, those are things that will trigger me to pay more attention, and it'll tell me that in the hypnotic state, I'm going to make suggestions that you are able to kind of just release that, let go, and go with the flow a little bit more and allow things to happen in their own time. So that would be sessions that we build off, and every session builds off to the next session. So when we see breakthrough is when you can decide, you can decide any time, what, I feel great, I'm gonna take a break and I'll return to you with another goal. But most people who see me never want to take a break, so can't.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, and it's kind of ironic that they when they've reached that point of that breaking point, it's when they excuse me, it's when they no longer need your service anymore. But I think at the same time, like it was with me with coaching. Like when I first got a coach, I was like, the first 2 months, like, oh, this is really cool. And then I like have my breakthrough. I'm like, I'm over this, right? And then I'm like, but I need someone to talk to. I want to be able to get the advice and the information and
or new goals,
building that rapport and being able to break down that barriers.
Or just new goals.
Or having no goals. Sometimes no goals is even better.
You may have overcome your stress and anxiety, but now you're like, I want to pass the bar exam to become a lawyer. Or I want to get my license in finance. Or I want to hit my health goals and stop eating carbs. Whatever, get on a plane. I have had anxiety with getting on planes before. So, or crossing bridges. It's always something that you're like,
that's
right.
I'm laughing because I used to have to drink a lot before I got on a plane. And then my family's in northern Michigan. I'm in Detroit now. There's the Mackinac Bridge that connects lower Michigan to upper Michigan. And I was just over it last week. And I used to have to, there's a bar on either side. So I used to have to stop at the one on whatever side before I crossed until I started using some techniques, some NLP and other things. So I could like go across the damn thing. I know exactly what you're talking about. And I know I'm not alone. There's tons of people out there that have bridge problems and plane problems. It's really just giving up control.
And again, building the rapport and having that good relationship, you can be like, Brie, so I have this thing coming up. And I want to feel confident to give a speech at this board meeting. So can you hypnotize me to prepare for that? Or I have an interview and I'm nervous. Yeah. Will I remember everything that's on my resume? I've actually had to be hypnotized for that before because I do so many things that I would get into an interview and kind of freeze. And they like to ask those questions like, okay, so just give me an example of a time where you were, showing how you brought a team together.
Leading a team.
Look.
Yeah.
Exactly, Sean. And I'm like, oh shit, I don't remember. Yeah. But I've done it. It's just I didn't remember. Yeah. So I had a colleague hypnotize me to remember, and I got the job clearly. So here I am.
It's amazing. That's amazing. And you also touched on the fact of the 90% subconscious, 10% conscious, and then the dreams is like your mind.
We call it venting.
Getting rid of the waste, venting. And I recently started writing down my dreams because I was like, over the last 5 months now, every now and then I'll be getting these really vivid, weird dreams. And I'd wake up in the morning, I'd tell my girlfriend, she's like, you got to write these down.
So cool.
Why? So she's like, because they'll start to make sense. So I started writing my dreams down. And a couple of days ago, I was going through my book of all my dreams. And like, they don't make any sense. Nothing's correlating. But yeah, like it's very interesting how the mind does that. And you being able to help people allow to tap into that, go through their dreams, let them understand what the dream means, because there is a deeper meaning behind those things. And if you don't write them down or you're not talking to someone, you're not reaching out to someone like you to help understand that, it's just kind of wasted, where it can be very insightful and very valuable. And I think that's really cool. So one thing I actually wanted to ask you was you mentioned that you've been kind of like a spiritual person. You've had psychic powers or psychic abilities, would you like to call them. When did you kind of really get into this line of work? Like, were you growing up as a kid, were you kind of being able to read people really easy and you knew it was kind of your calling? Was it later on in life? Like, tell us a bit about how you kind of got into this realm, because it's new to me. I find it very interesting. I love the ideas of everything like this, but I mean, I was never exposed to this. Like if I told someone like, oh, well, you know, I'm an Aries, so I could just be like, shut up.
And I'm an Aries,
Right?
so
So
you know I know.
how did you get in this?
Yes, that's what I'm at. So
That's great.
it's funny. I'll use you for example, Sean, right? So like we were hanging out at like a
Yeah.
coworking space. I was like, when's your birthday? And you told me your birthday. I casually throw it into conversations because that's how I tap into understanding a person. It's something I've been doing. I'll say I've been doing the birthday thing in numerology in the last few years. And I use all of those as tools. So what it is, right? Because I don't want to Miss Cleo it, right? Because that's kind of corny.
Yeah.
And I don't want
Right.
to have the psychic friend network or whatever.
Yeah.
But what it is I feel like I've used not only hypnosis, but just kind of meditation, chakra alignment, energy healing, and Reiki to really learn how to develop my intuition. So like I've been developing, it's not ready yet, but an intuition development course where I teach you how to use different tools to express what it is you can already do. So my belief is that we all are intuitive. We're born open, right? It's just some of us are finely tuned to like the frequencies and the vibration, right? A little bit more than others. And I would say I was always a sensitive child. And when I say sensitive, like I was like one of those old soul kids. Like you'd say something to me and it would be like, I would say something. It would be like, where are you getting this stuff from? You know, those little kids that are like, you're not even a real kid. Like, that's weird. That would be me.
Yeah.
That would be that.
Okay.
And so,
I like that.
you know, it made me very introverted because it was like, you're weird, right? So I didn't have like a whole bunch of friends growing up. I don't think I really became really social until like high school years. And then I was like, okay, I got to stop being weird. I go to school in Manhattan. I got to get on the subway every day. I need to put this weird stuff in a bag and kind of get cool, right? So what that did was it made me suppress it a lot more. And I would say after that, I became a mom and it was like, okay, well, you got to get a job. You can't be an artist. I went to school for fine arts most of my life, like different art mediums, right? So I'm saying that to say that once I had my daughter, it was like, okay, you got to go get a real job because artists starve. So then I didn't have any more time to really use my intuition for art because intuition and creativity kind of run on that right brain versus left brain analytical side, right? So then I suppressed my intuition even more to get into the real world, right? And make the money and chase the bag. And so I would say, just like most people who kind of find themselves in my space, is usually after something traumatic happens that kind of wakes you up, right? And so life was lifing one day, and it kind of forced me around, like, I would say COVID time to do a lot more reflection. And rather than kind of mask it in a bottle or, you know, with a substance, I'm grateful enough to say that I kind of tapped into who are we? Why am I here? What is the meaning of life? Why do we suffer so much? The questions that I think everybody kind of has right before they either jump off the bridge, hit the bottle, or go deeper into this space. And I started to utilize astrology, which was a secret hobby. So I would be at work, corporate work, and I would be Googling the stars, understanding things for many, many years since I was probably like 17 years old. And when I went on a spiritual journey to kind of like get to know myself more, like I said, when I had those questions, people who were close to me were like, how do you know this stuff? Why do you know this stuff? This is so weird. Tell me more. And then it became like a party favor. It would be like, oh, Brie knows everything. Let's do that thing you do. Just like,
I like that.
Right. And then it was like, hey, Brie, you know that thing you do sometime when we're out? Somebody wants to pay you to tell them something. You think you could do that? And I'm like, yeah, you want to pay me to tell you stuff about yourself that I like to research for a hobby? Cool. And before you know it, I was like literally seeing clients for astrology readings and numerology readings. And it was just something I fell in love with. But what happened is one day I got a call and I thought someone was trolling me because they found my phone number that I had posted up saying that I do that type of work in Florida. And the woman was literally, her husband was murdered. And yeah, it was deep. And it still creeps me out to this day, but she's a good friend of mine now. And I thought she was trolling. So I was like, okay, if you're not trolling, pay me and get on camera. And she paid me and she got on camera and she was devastated. And basically I did a reading for her. I told her a lot of things that She was like, no one could know these things. And when I finished with her, I still didn't feel like I was finished with her. I felt almost like this is not enough. This is not helping the way I would like to see somebody feel, right? And I just opened up in my own spiritual way to my spirit guides and that force that guides me and said, listen, if it's more that I could do to help a person, push me in the path. And I was on a live stream one day and there was this guy doing hypnosis and he was giving women orgasms. That's what he chose to do with his hypnotic education. And I was like, okay.
I mean, that's what Sean would do too. Don't worry.
Where do I learn this? Where do I learn this?
Right. Yeah. Hey, it's a thing. It's a whole thing. So he was giving people work. He was like, do you want one? I was like, no, I think I'm good on that space. However, can you give me the school that you went to learn this? Because I would love to kind of learn this stuff, right? And he gave me the school, and I ended up attending a school that was like 56 years old out in California. Government grants were paying for it. And I was like, this is a whole weird world. Like, this is a real thing. I really get a diploma in this stuff. And not only could I get a diploma in that, but a bunch of other modalities to help people to heal. And I just fell in love with it. So that's basically how I got into this. Yeah.
To go back, like, to what you're saying about in your earlier years, it really is a shame, and hopefully this changes, what we do to our youth, because we all, like, I'm 45, because I was a weird kid too, and I had all these ideas and thoughts, and, like, you know, whether I was artistic or not and able to do creative things, that's questionable. But, like, the things that, you know, little kids, they have all this freedom and they just want to do all these things, and then slowly society's like, well, but you got to go do this to get a money and contribute to society, and which we all understand we have to do that. But, you know, it's like, it's amazing. You take a little kid and all their energy and all their ideas, and no matter how strange, it's like to them, it's like, and then slowly we beat it out of them. So by the time they graduate, they're like, you've got to go earn money. And like you were saying, even if you hang on to it, you still like, well, I still have to eat, you know? So hopefully we make a shift. And it's good that these things are more mainstream now. Actually, there was I don't know if you're familiar with Joe Dispenza, but there was a, he's great. And he just recently, you probably know this. Shout out to Dr. Joe. Yeah, we try to mention him for the SEO purposes.
Joe Dispenza, Hypnosis.
But he was just down in Cancun a couple of times. He does his retreats down there, and the last, not maybe this last one, but the one before, they had the I forget what University of Southern California. They had the professors, the researchers come down, and they were doing blood draws and doing MRIs and scans of people, the meditators, and then they were at one point, it's a documentary, it's free online, but at one point they had, just speaking of like energy healing and everything else, they had a bunch of people get around a cancer culture in a petri dish in a lab, and then all just kind of concentrate on it. And it actually changed the makeup of the cancer. I forget I'm going to butcher it, so I don't want to get into the science of it. But so, and I'm glad that, like, he's kind of leading the charge that hopefully is a domino effect for the rest of this stuff.
Absolutely.
So people start taking it seriously now. We can incorporate it more. So anyway, I always think of that when you told your story about, I had all these things in me when I was little, and then slowly over time, they were still there.
It
but
beats the hell out of us.
Yeah, and the other kids aren't any help either. They're all like, "You're weird." I'm like, "Oh fuck," you know. What if there's some brilliant person that you know? How many times has that happened the world over, where some brilliant person has just been shot down so many times? So anyway, I think we're getting better. The good thing is, I think society's moving in a better.
I sit behind a corporate desk every day with this experience, and I'm like, I just want to be in my path, but I gotta pay bills.
I got an 8-year-old. I have an 8-year-old stepson now, and like, you know, just the things that he says, I was like, I wish I had that creativity. Like, I mean, and I did when I was a kid. Like, I'd be playing with toys and making all these stories out of the girl, the moon, and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, the imagination is just insane. And then, so there's a part of me that I'm noticing where it's like, I want to say, well, that's not real. That's not real. Come on, that's not real. But I'm just like, no, it can't crush that. Like that's what makes children. Like they bring out that creative side in you as well, and it's really cool. And yeah, I think we are moving in a direction. Like, I mean, like when I was, you know, Justin, I'm not that much younger than you. Justin likes to say. Yeah.
Well, I look really old because I'm sun worn, and I was an alcoholic for many years, so it's radiating off my
I'm older than Sean.
Okay.
Yeah. Justin's
I'm not going to do the math, but
but yeah, I mean, imagination.
It's
that's
really
imagination. Cool. And so everyone, I know manifestation is really big. Like, that's the word everyone loves. Manifesting my best life. what it is a hyper concentration using your imagination. It's that same childlike energy that you had as a child where you turned a chair and a blanket into a fort. It's the same energy or the same thought process you use to connect with building your business, making $1 million, 6 figures, whatever, right? It's just that we forget that kind of space. So like when I'm working with like my more spiritual clients, that's the energy that I want them to tap into. Go back to when you made a fort, and no one could tell you that fort was not the best thing ever, and it didn't have knights in front of it, and you weren't having parties with the flashlights. I did all of that, by the way. And so you take that same energy and you use that, you tap into that, and you go, I already made $1 million. I'm already living in my purpose. I'm already connected directly to the vibration or the frequency that allows me to have financial freedom while I travel the world. I connected in like Tulum and Playa del Carmen was something I manifested. It was a childlike energy where I said, I feel like I should have the ability to make my money in a place that I like. And when I get off of work, I want to go get a margarita on a beach and just sit by the water. And I don't see why I can't, right? No matter what, I want to be able to do that. I feel like if I have to work in this space and make my money, why not do it from a beautiful place? And I want to take other people with me on that beautiful place. And that's where I'm going. Now, hypnosis is amazing because I can literally take you to that place in your mind. So a session with me, I like to bring in your safe place, right? So in that first session, we're developing your own sacred place. It could be a beach. It could be a garden. It could be seeing a loved one who's passed on. It could be, the building of your dreams, the house of your dreams. I need you to develop that in your mind so that every session we start off at that place. Sometimes it's an elevator in your mind and you have control over the buttons. And when you connect to those buttons, you get to stop at whatever floor gets you to your goal. I do stuff like that. It's called a guided imagery journey.
You're just, the analogies you have are just phenomenal. Like, I love it. Like the elevator, you get off whatever floor you want. Manifestation is just an altered form of imagination. It's great. Childlike imagination, I never really thought of it that way. It's a really cool perspective. I like that. And I listen to you, like,
I paint pictures in your mind.
The arches coming up.
Them in your mind.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Get out of my head.
And for anybody because there's skeptical people everywhere. Like, I've seen it for myself and I felt it for myself. So I don't need to convince anybody else for what I think is real because I know it for myself. But even for the skeptical people that we talk about manifestation and other things, and they're like, well, that's just a placebo. I'm like, well, what if it is? But your life, you still feel better and you're happier. And it doesn't matter. Label it whatever you want. If it's working, it's working.
That's what people say when they go, hypnosis is real. Are you going to control my mind? I tell people that 90% of the people that I see are walking around in a state of hypnosis every day. They're listening. Yep, they're driving. They can't remember how they got from point A to point B. That's hypnosis. You're hyper-focused. You fall asleep with the TV on and those infomercials tell you want a cheeseburger when you wake up. That's hypnosis. And in so many different forms, right? So 90% of the people I see, I'm actually taking them up out of hypnosis to put them back into hypnosis. But this time you have the keys to control your own mind versus, social media, your job, or anything else. Because if you're not in control of your mind, you can't really see a breakthrough through your manifestations or tap back into that childlike imagination. It helps you build the business of your dreams or find a relationship or the love. Because sometimes that's the thing too. People come to me for confidence, to go out and date, or travel. It takes a lot of, we're like anomalies, jump up out and just go to countries by ourselves and stuff. Like, who does that? That's crazy.
Oh yeah. Me and my brother are so opposite. Like he can go to like an all-inclusive resort for a week, but after like a week, I get home. For me, I'm just like, oh, we're gonna go to Colombia, do a little pit tour. We did a pit stop in Dominican Republic, and then we were in I think another country too. Like, I've been to like 6 countries in the last like 3 months. It's really cool. Well, for those of people that are listening, watching, whether it be on YouTube, I think we're on Apple, Spotify, or platform, what's the best way to get a hold of you? I do know, like, in the upcoming weeks or months, maybe we're going to be doing a lot of work with you directly on building out some courses for you and doing your website as well, and getting the big click energy Strat show modification. But in the meantime, people that are listening, what's the best way to contact you? I know you do have a website, so we'll put the website in the link as well when we release this episode. Is there anything that you want to say to people that want to reach out, or if they're skeptical, or how to get a hold of you, or anything like
so as Sean said, we're still building. So my goal is to put out a lot more information about these things, because I found that I did a consultation earlier today, and she was like, so what is Reiki? What is hypnosis? Like, what are these things? And I feel like that's going to be what I'm putting out on my social media. If you go to Millennia, so it's Millennia, not Millennial, Millennia lifepaths.com or at Millennia Life Paths on all social media, you can find me that way. I do respond to DMs, so, don't be afraid to send me a message. I'm a real person. I do respond. And because, I'm still building up my socials and my websites and things, it's the best way to contact me through the website. My email is listed there. I have a podcast coming out as well. It's called Expectations with Bri Alexandra, and it's going to be based on metaphysics, spirituality, and having guests on and facilitating more of these type of conversations and getting people to get on to the life path that aligns with their true self. So that's what I have coming up. And like Sean said, he's going to help me build up some courses and get my ass out of this corporate world and back onto my manifested path of this stuff that I love.
Oh, that's awesome.
Get out of it. Justin, do you have anything you want to add on there, or questions for Brie before we wrap up? We try to leave these around 30 to 40 minutes. If anything longer is a little long. But
I love what you guys are doing. I was checking it out. I was like, this is, I see where we're going here. I can do this.
Well, some of it's a little childish, but we do appreciate that, though. Some of it gets a little immature, but Well, no, we really do appreciate coming on. And look, it'd be great to either, whether we come on your show or you come back on ours, we could even do maybe like a live session to show people what it's like. I've done that before on YouTube, so doesn't matter to me. You can hypnotize me on live on the air. So I think that'd be great. But I would love everything you're doing, and I hope that like we said, I hope the world goes more in that direction. It looks like we are, and it's like what's that stupid saying? Like, we're all born perfect until we meet our parents, and then we meet everything else. And it sounds like you're following. You're back to where it all started, and that's really refreshing to hear. So that's all I got. I'm going to butcher this if I keep talking. I'm just excited. I'm caffeinated. And I feel better just by talking to you, just by having me on the show. So thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to seeing this channel grow as well. And let's collaborate and keep doing some things. Sounds good. And then next time we'll have Sean read his dreams to us, unless we get canceled. Crazy airy shit. Let's see. Sounds good. Absolutely.